It's time for the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. It's time for The Game on ESPN 1400. For the next 2 hours, we'll get an in-depth look at local sports in the Eastern Upper Peninsula and Algoma region, and hear from the coaches and players involved in the game. We'll also analyze the college and pro sports scene across the region and dive into the biggest national stories. Now, let's get to the game and join your host, Scott Nason.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to The Game on ESPN 1400. You can also hear our show online at thegamesportshow.com and thegamesportshow.podbean.com. As the man said, my name is Scott Nason, broadcasting from our studios here at ESPN 1400. We'll be with you until 8 o'clock tonight. We have a very busy show, and we already have our first guest here in studio, host of Coach's Corner, which you can hear on 1230 WSOO on Saturday mornings. Hopefully that show will be back on here in a couple weeks. Dave Watson joining us on The Game. Dave, thanks for coming in, and welcome back to The Game.
Well, good. I was going to say good morning and good evening, and it's been a while. Might be a little rust on me because I think the last time I was on the air was the weekend of Thanksgiving, our last Coach's Corner. And I knew things were shutting down, so we went dark here for a while. But as you said, hopefully we'll be back in a few weeks and New Year, and hopefully a New Year brings some normalcy here to the table.
Absolutely, and we'll get into the local sports here at the bottom of the hour, Dave. But I wanted to devote a good portion of this first hour to our co-worker and colleague, John Bell. Most of our listeners have probably heard by now, but Johnny passed away over the weekend. And, Dave, I wanted to bring you in because, I never worked too much with John, but anybody that grew up in this area that loves radio like you and I certainly grew up with John in a way or two. John Bell came to town in 1986 and has been part of local radio for over 30 years. And so I just wanted to spend some time just reminiscing, because I think that's how Johnny would have wanted it. He would want us to laugh and talk and maybe even, make fun of some of the things that he said or did. But, just when the news hit over the weekend, certainly sadness, for our station and just for a lot of the people that knew John. Just your overall thoughts today.
Well, I'll be honest. It was the biggest loss I've had since my parents passed away. For my adult life, as you know, he was my mentor.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't be here talking to you or elevated to be able to be the voice of Sioux High sports. Mark St. Angelo never would have called me to take over when WSOO was able to get the Blue Devil rights. And that never would have happened if it wasn't for John, because, Johnny took me at a young age. I got back from college in Cleveland, and I was an intern for him, and we didn't get along that well at times. And I was like, this clown, David. And I was like, well, I don't know. And at first I didn't reach out to him, but through an acquaintance got us together. And then he ended up hiring me. And he made me work up through the ranks the tough way, running boards all the time, doing all the grunt work. And then one day, I was bugging him. He's like, oh, okay, here, go do a game. I did a girls varsity basketball game, Sioux High. I forget who they were playing. Larry Mousy was coaching.
Oh, wow.
It was one of those really good teams. It was the year before they went undefeated. So Alice Dusing's junior year. Here I am with a cheap RCA, Radio Shack with Mickey Mouse microphone, and called the game. And it took him a couple months, and he was driving somewhere and listened to it. Oh, I'll give you a chance. And then it went from there, and then Paul Stabile moved away, and I became the basketball voice at that point for Sioux High. But, he was a mentor. He was my boss for 8 years, and a co-worker after that here at Sovereign Communications. And then we became really good friends. He was like an older brother to me. He stood up at my wedding. And because Mike Spooler, my best friend, couldn't make it up here, it was one of the courthouse deals, and I thought, well, there's no one better than to have John. He was, as it was said yesterday, there was a lot of great tributes on social media. Mark St. Angelo had a really nice, touching a note from WSOO on the WSOO Facebook page. Scott Cook had a really nice thought as well on there, and a real touching tribute to him. Lisa Schulte, who my former partner, recanted the story of me going to John saying, hey, let's give this 17-year-old kid a chance to call games as an analyst. Oh, all right, David. And he was on board with it. He worked with her, and that's the kind of guy he was. I mean, he could be stubborn. I mean, he could tick you off sometimes where you maybe wanted to slug him. But I'll tell you what, there was nobody that was, if you had him in your corner, you're doing good, because there was nobody more loyal than him. He had a great heart and just his passion for radio. I mean, he built this radio.
Right.
Station. I mean, this station back in the day, this was, I would say, Scotty, and I think you would agree, one of the best talk stations in the state. I mean, you could put it anywhere because he built it. And I was proud of it, and I was kind of his right hand, and it was Talk Radio 1400, and we had Rush on and One-on-One Sports, and he took pride in it. And I did too. And I, you know what, those years of me being his right hand, those are some of the more fun years we had. We had Lou Turco and a weekend club. We were clicking, and it was because of him. But without a doubt, one of the best radio guys, the best radio guy I've been around, best interviewer. I wish I could interview like him. I mean, what a wordsmith. And the biggest thing I come away with, and I always thought this, before he came to town, and this is no disrespect or nothing to anybody here that was prior as far as in broadcasting, he is the first one I can think of that came to town and wasn't afraid to speak his mind and hit on tough subjects. It's always difficult to do for some people. Now, there was times he was wrong about his opinion. There was times he was right. But you know what? You had to tip your cap that he would hit on it. And he would hit on it, and he'd get people listening. And there was people I remember, oh, that John Bell, I can't listen to. Oh, that John, I can't stand him. And it's like, did you hear what he said the other day? It's like, wait a minute, I thought you said you didn't like him. You were listening.
That's right.
He got him listening.
He'd get him listening.
He got him, but you know, he really was a great friend and just a great mentor, and comical. I mean, how many times that you would be in a building. And whether it was Scott Cook, Mike Spooler, myself, Paul VanWagoner, and Paul wouldn't be where he is, and I think Junior would be the first one to admit if it wasn't for Johnny giving him a chance. And I thought of Paul yesterday because where Paul is now, and Paul's done a really good job to elevate his career in Virginia. And you know what? At the beginnings, it was Johnny that lifted him up like he did me. And there are so many others that has done. But I remember walking the halls, and whether it was Junior or Spools or Scotty or me, got a Johnny story. And it was normally comical.
Yeah.
And some for air, some for not air. And he was as comical as you get, and that laugh. I mean, the infectious, it sounded like an alarm going off. But he really was just a true gentleman. And people, there was times either, I could see where, some people didn't like him or whatever. But I'll tell you what, if he was in your corner, there was no one better to have in your corner.
Yeah, my John Bell stories are a little more recent, doing the Sioux Eagles broadcast now on ESPN 1400. I know the last time I spoke to John at the benefit we had there a fall ago, he was very happy that I was in this position moving over, and he went to bat for me. He was always very supportive of me and my kids when I would come up to the press box, and we became friends. And, you look at all the games and the teams that he covered, and obviously he did the majority of his broadcasting with hockey, doing Sioux Indians broadcasts, and then the NAHL when they had some really good teams and players that went into the NHL, and then doing Sioux Eagles. He also did Lake State basketball. He did some hockey. He was just an all-around a great broadcaster. And just when you got to know him, like you said, Dave, if you had him in your corner, I think that's a great way to put it. He would go to bat for you, and he did have a very big heart. Yes, he did rub some people the wrong way with some of his viewpoints, but
there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that, and you knew where he stood. There was no surprises, or he wore his opinions on his sleeve, so to speak, and certainly having over 30 years of radio, and like you said, I remember I was a very young kid when Talk Radio 1400 started. I remember listening to his morning show, and I mean, you were just waiting for what he was going to say, because it always was very, it was very memorable. I remember his shifts on WSOO, towards the end of his career. I would wait for the songs to get done just so I could hear what Johnny says, because he would always have something to say, and he just did it in a very unique way. And, you say this about a lot of people, but I think in this case, it's very true. He was one of a kind.
Oh, he was. He was, one of a kind. And, some people might, disagree with this, but I was driving in thinking of this too, Scotty. A local icon. You think about it.
Absolutely.
You say the name John Bell, everybody knew what we were talking
Everybody
about.
in this town.
There's just a few people, I think, in local radio and broadcasting in both Saults that you could, throw that name out there. Obviously more in Sault, Ontario, but John Bell, I think Scott Cook, Tim Ellis, but it's a select few. But Johnny's right at the top of the list, and I'd say local icon. And you say his WSOO show towards the end. I would time it from when I'm going to cut my grass, because it takes me 2 hours to cut my grass.
You got a big yard.
I do. It's Comerica Park, and I would time it for 3:00 for when he would come on, and then when he would. The song would end, and he would start, and there's a few times I'd fall right off the lawnmower. I'm ready to laugh, because that's what he brought to the table. He got you thinking. I think he was a very intelligent man. Like I said, he was a very good wordsmith, but he'd get you thinking about things too. It's like, his thought process. Sometimes it was out there, and sometimes he'd really, bring you to thinking about something, and he could hit on all kinds of different subjects. I mean, it was amazing that it was not just sports, but you bring up all the games he's done. You and I have broadcast in some interesting places. I think Johnny beats us.
I think so. Yes.
Some of the podunk, places he's been to. I think even trumps you and I. And you and I have been into some interesting places, but all over the country. I mean, with the Sioux Indians. I remember back in the day, put the Sioux Hawks on the air.
Sioux Hawks, that's right.
AAA midget hockey. He did those games. I think he was the first one, and it got WSOO going about it. Sioux High Hockey, if you recall. I know this sounds crazy. Wasn't on the air back in the 80s. And Johnny put it on the air. Next thing you know, here comes WSOO, because, all of a sudden 1400 was, making him do it. And Johnny was the voice of Sioux High Hockey for many years, doing every game.
Coming up after our break, I'm going to be playing the last interview I had with John Bell. This was back in 2018, his final broadcast for the Sioux Eagles. I had a chance to interview him on Hockey TV, and he's going to talk about some of his broadcasting memories. And one of the things that stuck out to me, Dave, when I found the interview and listened to it, was talking about all the miles that he logged on the bus. He estimated around 600,000 miles. And, especially when he was doing the Sioux Indians games, I mean, they traveled down to Texas, they traveled to Illinois, to Ohio,
Missouri,
and that's a lot of time on the bus. And there's probably some stories we can't repeat on the air about John on the bus and some other things. Those are always my favorite John Bell stories.
Those are classics, and it's amazing he lived past those days, because those boys, Joey Sean, Big Daddy Corbier, and countless others, Bubba Boucher, even Mike Boucher, Boo was on the bus for a few times as well in the early days of the Sioux Indians. They tormented him. They tormented the heck out of him. How he survived that, I don't know. But hey, he took it a good stride, and he always looked fondly. He said his best broadcasting memories. He always told me this, and told a lot of people this. He probably shared it with you. His best sports broadcasting memories was those years of the Sioux Indians.
We're going to take a break. When Dave and I come back, we're going to talk more about John Bell and the legacy that he left here in local radio. All coming up on the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show, The Game, ESPN 1400.
If you're looking for friendly, competent, caring insurance service for your home, auto, business, or farm in the Eastern Upper Peninsula, see the folks at Don Wilson Insurance at 110 Dawson Street in the Sioux today. Don Wilson Insurance has worked with Fremont Insurance of Michigan for the past 20 years, and Fremont's been providing the finest coverage in the state of Michigan since 1876. For competitive rates on all your insurables, see the friendly staff at Don Wilson Insurance and Fremont, serving the EUP since 1999. Don Wilson Insurance and Fremont, big fans of Lake Superior State University and the Lakers. Looking for a good pre-owned car, SUV, or truck to get you through the coming winter? See the great selection of used vehicles on the lot now at Sioux Motors. More than 25 SUVs and 20 or more cars and trucks are available for the huge year-end savings program. Lots of Escapes priced to sell, Explorers, Edges, F-150s, and there are 9 sedans on the lot. If you want new wheels this winter, see the sales staff at Sioux Motors today. Sioux Motors on 3 Mile across from Walmart in the Michigan Sioux.
Hi, this is Scott from Parker Ace Hardware. At Ace, we make painting a simple pleasure. Ask one of our friendly, knowledgeable Ace associates about our Ace Royal Paint, a high-quality paint at a price you'll love. You'll find Ace Royal Paint starting at an everyday low price of just $19.99 a gallon. It's another reason why, from a simple start to a fabulous finish, Parker Ace can help make your next painting project perfect. Parker Ace, the helpful place. Stop by Parker Ace Hardware. We're looking forward to serving you real soon.
Stop by Parker Ace Hardware at 819 Ashman, downtown Sioux, Michigan.
I support our community, so I shop locally and work with other area businesses whenever I can. My credit union does too, so I became a member there. My credit union offers online bill pay, mobile banking, and e-statements. I get first-name friendly service along with faster, smarter banking. That's an unbeatable combination.
Sioux Co-op Credit Union, your credit union, federally insured by NCUA. Visit us online at SiouxCoop.com.
Just because another mandate has come down from Lansing doesn't mean you still can't enjoy your favorite food and drinks from Sioux Brewing Company. Open every day, offering carryout. During the present mandate, we're offering $2 off growler fills, so treat yourself to a Laker Gold, Maggie's Irish Red, or 13 IPA. Now on the corner of Ashman Street and Portage Avenue, your town, your beer, Sioux Brewing Company.
Since 1916, a lot of independent agents have recommended auto owners insurance, and a lot of parents have taken that recommendation to heart. So have a lot of their children, and grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. As we celebrate our first 100 years, Auto Owners Insurance thanks all those who have put their trust in us, and all the generations who will.
Visit Madigan Pingator Insurance Services today on Water Street in Sioux, Michigan, or at MadiganPingator.com.
Let's get back to the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. Let's get back to the game on ESPN 1400.
Welcome back to the game on ESPN 1400. Scott Nason with you. We'll be joined by Dave Watson once again here in a few minutes. But I wanted to play, as we are remembering our coworker and good friend Johnny Bell, who passed away over the weekend, a local legend in radio. Well, I had a chance to interview John, my one and only time being on the air with John Bell. This was in the 2018 season for the Sioux Eagles. It was Johnny's last game broadcasting Sioux Eagles here on ESPN 1400. And I had a chance to interview John while I was doing the broadcast on Hockey TV. And so I thought it would be a good opportunity to get his voice on the air one more time. Here's my interview almost 2 years ago with John Bell.
Oh, these are nice.
They are. Joining us here during the intermission on Hockey TV is John Bell. He is the longtime broadcaster of many sports teams here in Sault Ste. Marie, including the Sioux Eagles. He does the games locally for ESPN 1400. And John, this is my first time interviewing you, and a very unique experience. But this is your final broadcast for the Sioux Eagles and sports here in the area. And as somebody that has grown up with you, I was a young man listening to some of your games,
doing
a lot of
old
things.
Man? Is that the deal?
Exactly. I am an old man doing some of your games. I want to thank you for really bringing me some great memories, bringing AM radio to Sault Ste. Marie with 1400 when you came in, and listening to a lot of different broadcasts that you have done. You were one of the people, believe it or not, that got me interested in doing this sort of thing, and so I want to thank you for that. But I'm talking too long here, John. I want to give you the floor.
No, you go ahead. You're doing fine. I'm just posing for the camera.
You're just loving this here, but John, first of all, before we get to you, thoughts on this game so far? Eagles 1-0 lead. Thunderbirds came on in that second period, but the Eagles still holding their ground.
McPhail, that one save he made was tremendous. It saved the game. I didn't know about the goal they waved off. I didn't see if it went in or not.
It was close. It was close. I didn't see it in. But
and the other end, too. But I thought the second period, the Eagles just were not as sharp as they were in the first. But I expect they're going to come out in the third and play their best. And the Thunderbirds, they're not going to be any pushover.
No.
They've been the gold standard in this league for a long, long time. And I knew this would be a good game, and it's nice to see a really good crowd in here, like a hockey night and Friday night.
That's right.
And I'm enjoying doing it. I haven't really waxed sentimental during my broadcast. I had a couple of why-I-oughtas.
I would expect nothing less.
I thought there were a couple calls missed offside right there that could have cost us a goal.
Yeah, I thought that was offside as well.
It was.
Yeah.
Even Jake Saxon pointing at the line.
We had a good view right below us.
Yeah, and I did.
Yeah.
And so, I'm enjoying doing it, but I have tried to figure out how many games I did. Back when the Sioux Indians existed in the North American Hockey League, I did all their games for 10 years, most all the road games, too. I rode the bus. I figured out after it was all over that I had about 450,000 miles under my rear end. And
frequent flyer miles.
Oh, yeah, rider miles.
Yeah.
Mostly with Bubba at the wheel, and he was my roomie because he had one of those CPAP machines.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I snored. And I took my hearing aids out. I couldn't hear CPAP. He couldn't hear me. So a good combination. I enjoyed it. There are really, Scott, a lot of memories, and I'm sure that I'll think back on some of them and a lot of people I've met, and a lot of good times and some really disappointing games, thrilling games, exciting ones. But, I've done a lot of hockey, mostly hockey, but I've done college basketball, high school, boys and girls, high school hockey. We even did for quite a while AAA midget hockey when they were the Sioux Hawks. And I did a Sioux Ontario game of the week. So I've done a lot. I've seen a lot. And I'm just kind of wearing out health-wise. And my vision is bad. But being here a broadcaster yourself, how easy it is to see here at the
sidelines are so good.
You've got to lean over a little bit in the corners. But it's really a great vantage point. And I've done a lot of games here. And I'm going to miss. Now, I told people I haven't completely closed the door, but I'm heading towards becoming a part-timer, retiring to part-time. And I'll give them till tonight, till the start of the next season, if we carry the Eagles, to find another broadcaster to do the game. And if they can't find one, I have offered, in an emergency case and certain stipulations, maybe to do a couple games. But realistically, I'm planning on this one being my last game, and it's a good game. And I'm really excited. I'm going to make you the senior broadcaster.
You're right, yeah. Well, Larry actually has 2 more years than me. You've done games with Larry, and that was going to lead me to my next question here, John. Larry Posban's been doing Eagles broadcasts since the Eagles were the Eagles. And he's a fun guy to do a broadcast with. You had a chance to, and he knows his stuff, and he throws his opinions out there. And, as a guy like you and I, you got to appreciate that.
Oh, I would never offer an opinion.
Opinion.
No. But, again, just a lot of memories, a lot of pucks. There's certain aspects of this I won't miss. People don't understand that actually the easy part of the game for me, maybe you, is just doing the game.
Yes. The prep work.
It's the setup and the pre-work. You're much more tech guy than I am, and you have more sources that you've created on your own to get all kinds of information, and I admire that. And I'm kind of old world. I'm like an analog man in a digital world. And and I've even done some past hockey. I joined the Eagles when they were in the NOJHL during mid-playoffs, I think against Rayside Belfort, if I remember.
I believe they were Sudbury at the time, but I remember that series. Yeah,
and then the Eagles ended up going to the
Dudley Hewitt.
Yeah, the Dudley Hewitt in Huntsville, Ontario. And I went with, and I'm asking anybody out there, is there a broadcaster who has ever done back-to-back, night, quadruple overtime games? I have never even seen it.
No.
And it wasn't really hard to do because I was into it. It was such a fun time. And the Eagles were members of the NRL. Then they joined the NAHL.
Right.
And they had that tremendous team the first year, but were horribly upset by the team out in New York.
Jamestown, I believe, yes.
Yeah, I remember going there. I remember leaving here with the snow up to our waist and getting to Jamestown and the buds out on the trees at 70 degrees and finding out that that's a home of Lucille Ball. See, there's lots of really fun stories along the way, many of which we can't tell.
I've heard some of those.
We had a rule kind of like when I rode with the Indians. What happens on the bus stays on the bus. But there are some great stories there. And I've often thought about writing a book about life on the road and doing that. But I don't know if it'd have enough interest with junior hockey.
You'd have at least one interest.
And I wouldn't want to expose some people.
That's right, yeah.
Including myself.
Get a non-disclosure agreement. Those are in the news these days. Final question for you, John. I know you got to get back to the radio side, but if you had to pick one broadcast, one memory as far as that game that you called that was the most memorable, if you could narrow it down to one, do you have it?
It might be a Sioux Indians game in a national tournament against the Lincoln Stars. We had a 3-goal lead going into the third, and they just kept whistling us with penalty after penalty. They tied it up on a fluke play with 2 seconds to go. They shot it in. It rebounded off the board. Bobby Reberman couldn't cover it. It came right out to a guy, bang, and they tied it. And I was like, oh. And then I just knew they'd win it in overtime, and they did. And it was so heartbreaking. It was just, I wanted to cry.
You can't do that on the air.
It was and funny that a memorable game being a loss. As far as wins go, Chuck Fabry scoring the winning goal over Danville, a team he used to be with, to get the Indians in to the national tournament, which he hosted. And that was a fun time, too. With the Eagles, I'd say those 2 4-overtime games were pretty exciting.
Oh, absolutely.
But there have been some good ones. I'll tell you what, the best series I ever saw was when the Eagles played Kalamazoo in Kalamazoo about a month before the season ended. They were 2 of the most intense, back and forth, punches type. They were just great junior hockey games. It was hard to get. That's back in the days when Depp played and those guys.
Oh, yeah. Robbie Payne, who's doing great things at Northern.
Weren't there 2 Paynes?
Yeah, Travis, the other one, yeah.
Yeah, and boy, those are exciting. There are a lot of great ones, but those are the ones that kind of come to the fore.
That's John Bell, ladies and gentlemen. Before you go, John, Eagles owner Ron Lavin wanted me to pass on best wishes. He thanks you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lavin.
Yeah, he always had
I've always
good things to
enjoyed
say.
talking to him, and I'm glad he has a team here in town, and I'm really glad they're doing well, and let's hope they win tonight.
Absolutely, John. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Scott.
Something tells me you're going to be up here sometime soon.
Yeah, I'll come up and pay you a visit.
Very good. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Scott.
All right. That is John Bell, as we are remembering his legacy in local radio. Continue to be joined here in studio by Dave Watson. And Dave, that's the third time I've listened to that interview, and it was really nice to just hear his voice again, and certainly his humor and unique style of broadcasting.
You could go on for hours listening to him. I mean, I had him on Coach's Corner a few times, and he I'd have like you. I think you do the same thing, Scotty. Is I have it, as far as templated of how I want the show to go. Type up interview questions and that. When Johnny came on, throw that over the window and let him go, because that's what he's gonna do. But no, he has he had a plethora of information as far as stories and that from all his times doing games. And I remember the first time I filled in for him for the Sioux Indians, a young broadcaster, and David, I can't go to Cleveland this weekend. You're gonna room with Bubba. Now he does have a CPAP, and it does make some noise, but you might want to bring some earplugs. And then he's going on and this and that and the other, and then. So I get on the bus, and I'm real quiet. I kind of knew Joe Sean, didn't really know Rick Corbier much, and, of course, all the other guys with the team, and then Jack Cotlett, if you remember that name, who was equipment manager. And so we get going, and they're starting to ask me questions about Johnny. And maybe the bus gets near Gaylord, and I couldn't take it anymore, and I pop into Joey, Coach Sean, are you going to be late for the interview tonight? And then it took off from there, and they were dying, and every day they would request Johnny, impressions. And I get home after the trip, and I remember my dad saying to me, they're going to say something to Johnny. And so then the next week I'm driving around or whatever. I wasn't running the board on that particular night, and I was driving around, or happened to be in the car. Indians are in Springfield, I think, one of Johnny's favorite places.
Oh, yeah, he loved going there.
Springfield Junior Blues, the Nelson Center. And he goes, Indians lead 3-1 here in the second in Springfield. David, if Dave Watson's listening back home, I heard about the trip, and I heard something about you mocking me. We'll talk about that when I get home. And so, anyway, and we always had this joke back and forth, because when Johnny would end a sentence, he would go, And Scott Cook and I were the first ones, I think, that really picked up on it. So we'd always end, And he had started with and then end with, and so one time I and right in front of John, and Johnny goes, I don't go, David, I don't do that. I said, oh, yeah, you do. I said no. And so then he goes, I got to call the National Weather Service. So there, and he did it a couple times. I said, there it is. He goes, there what is? Why don't you leave me alone? And that was the comical part of Johnny. And somebody laughs over that. But you think about it, too. How much he loved the city of Sault Ste.
He did.
He stayed here. Jerry Noble had a really nice tribute to him on Facebook last night, and he said, I brought him to town in 1986 and never left. Yeah. And he did. He loved this town. He was a great booster for the community. He always wanted to see it thrive. And, he never left. And he said, if I ever went home, it would be back to Minnesota. He said, but this is my home.
Remembering the life and times of Johnny Michael Bell, we will certainly miss him, and certainly he is not and won't be forgotten. We're going to take a break. We're going to keep Dave around for one more second as we have some local sports to talk about coming up next on The Game here on ESPN 1400.
Leeds Sports Center is geared up to help you make the most of winter fun. Shop their selection of boots, and why not make it a year for family snowshoe outing? Boots and tub snowshoes are now 20% off. Make sure to pick up your ice traction devices for those days when changing weather makes for slippery conditions. Spending your stimulus or expecting a tax refund? Let the Leeds Firearms Layaway Program help you make the most of it. Leeds Sports Center is open Tuesday through Friday from 10 to 6 and Saturday from 10 to 4. Conveniently located on the I-75 Business Burg. Stop in to see Terry and the crew at Leeds and begin your winter adventures.
Is your furnace old? You could be dealing with a low-efficiency furnace costing you hundreds of dollars a year. The experts at Albert Heating and Cooling can help you with a new high-efficiency Bryant furnace. On sale now till the end of February. With your new furnace, you can buy an extended 10-year labor warranty for only $99. Start saving today with a new furnace and sleep soundly knowing you have no worries. Go online at albertheating.com or stop in at 3147 South M129, just south of 3 Mile Road today. Bryant, whatever it takes.
Picture this. It's Monday afternoon and you're at Domino's buying a large 3-topping pizza. You give the Domino's employee $7.99 plus tax, of course. Now, picture this. It's Friday and you're at Domino's buying a large 3-topping pizza. You give the Domino's employee more than you paid Monday. You feel bamboozled. But then you hear this.
Domino's extended its $7.99 large 3-topping carryout deal to all day, every day.
And so you danced and ate Domino's. Carry out only. You must ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, and charges may vary.
What are the two things most teens should have besides a cell phone? A teen savings account and a teen checking account at Central Savings Bank. Your teen can learn how to save and budget their own money with one or both of these accounts. These accounts come with an ATM debit card with mobile wallet capabilities and access to things like internet banking and mobile banking, all with no monthly service charges. If you have a child 12 years of age or younger, they have accounts for them as well. Stop in any of their 9 locations and ask about the CSB Savers Youth Savings Club accounts. Member FDIC.
What's that? It's the noise Liam's piggy bank makes when he puts money in it. He has a CSB Savers Youth Savings Club account at Central Savings Bank.
Oh, yeah? I don't have any accounts for either of my boys.
Well, with this type of savings account, Liam gets prizes for deposits, entries for quarterly drawings, and much more. Plus, there are no monthly service charges.
Member FDIC.
Central Savings Bank. Ask what we can do for you.
You can catch podcasts of The Game at thegamesportshow.com. Now let's get back to it with Scott Nason here on ESPN 1400.
Welcome back to The Game on ESPN 1400. Scott Nason with you as we continue to be joined by Dave Watson here, host of Coach's Corner on 1230 WSOO. Coming up here at 6:45, we'll talk Detroit sports with Butch Davis, and then at 7 o'clock, we'll have our roundtable. Well, Dave, some games have been played across the state as far as finishing the fall season in high school sports, a load of football games over the weekend. The Rudyard Bulldogs volleyball team will be playing tomorrow in their quarterfinal against Kearney Nadu. They're starting to get the schedules out for winter sports, which is expected to resume here in another week. I believe if all things hold to form and there are no more restrictions, practices begin for the winter sports season next week with games of fall the following week. Certainly we're hopeful, Dave, but, so far, fingers crossed, so good.
And to be honest with you, I'm getting antsy.
Yeah.
I want to be out there broadcasting some games and seeing the kids and the coaches and, a good pal, Pat Bennett. I want them to be able to get out there and myself and you and whoever else out there to broadcast these games. We'll see. I mean, like I told you off the air, Scott, it's the $1 million question is, do they extend this order from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services that I believe ends on January 15th?
Correct.
If they extend it, I think it's game, set, match. I just don't see how you get a winter season in because Sioux High did put a post on Facebook, looks like a tentative basketball schedule for JV and varsity, and they have, I think, the freshman girls on there, and they're working on the freshman boys. I haven't seen a hockey schedule yet, but it's crammed right in. Their first game would be January 22nd after a week of practice.
Yeah.
And tryouts. A lot of these teams, in Sioux High's case, with the Sioux High girls, they know who's going to be pretty much on the team. But, these other ones, they got to, be real quick about picking their team. January 22nd would be the start of the games. I counted about 14 games each, and I think that they are looking at maybe adding a couple more, but all the way into early March, and then you go into the playoffs, and then you cram the playoffs all together. They don't stagger them.
Yeah,
they don't have time.
Playoffs haven't moved. They're still at the set dates.
And you're going to have the districts of girls and boys at the same time, but girls one night, boys the next, and they just keep on going. And they are going to have to come up with a different venue for one of the semifinals and finals. And I think they're going to spread those out too. And basically everything's up in the air until we get some notification of this order getting lifted, because it's the same order for the winter sports, indoor sports, as it is for the restaurants, I believe. And if that gets lifted, then we can go. Other than that, then we're still in that holding pattern. But we'll see. I mean, hopefully, I want to see some youth sports getting going here. We do have the college sports. Lake State basketball has started. Laker hockey's looking pretty good. And I haven't listened lately, but what's going on with the Greyhounds? Are they still on?
They're still on a pause. Both the NLJHL and OHL on a pause. They extended the lockdown in Ontario for a couple weeks. Right now, the Ontario Hockey League has set February as a possible start date. The NLJHL, they would need this 2-week extension of their lockdown order to expire. But, you look at the OHL, Dave, and say they do start in sometime in February. I mean, what are you going to have, a 20-game season? I know the Western Hockey League in Western Canada, they've committed to a 26-game season, but they're going to come to a point possibly where they're just going to run out of time and just may have to say the heck with it all.
Well, when I talked to David Branch, the commissioner of the Ontario Hockey League, the tentative plan was for training camp to start last week.
Right.
And then they would start games in February, but now you can't start training camp. And once you get going, you're still going to need a training camp. And to your point, you're going to run out of time.
Laker hockey over the weekend, sweeping Northern Michigan. The Lakers right now 6-1-3. They haven't played a conference game yet. They will be playing some conference games here at home against Bemidji State this weekend. You can hear those games over on our sister station, Yes FM. But, for the Lakers, they've been very fortunate, one, to be able to play all their games and, 10 games, 1 loss. You got to like their start.
They're looking really good, and I understand their power play has been clicking.
Yes.
Really good. Ashton Calder has been on fire, and boy, I'll tell you, you go up to Marquette and get a sweep, and then the come from behind win on the second night. I mean, that's not often that the Lakers have had success up in Marquette, and to be able to get points out of there and win both games. These are big games, I think, with Bemidji, because Bemidji, they struggled with a few weeks ago, if you recall, in those non-league games. I think they lost, and then they tied the next night. So these are critical games here for the Lakers. If they could get some success this weekend, that would really catapult them in a good position, because the schedule is going to get tougher. Minnesota State, I think, comes up here towards the end of the month, and then they go to Bowling Green.
Yep.
Both those teams are in the top 10 in the country.
Laker Junior men's basketball got underway this weekend at the Bud Cooper Gymnasium. A split against Wayne State, losing on Friday 87-76, and then winning on Saturday. They will travel to Purdue Northwest next Friday and Saturday. The Laker women, they weren't able to play until today. They fell earlier this afternoon, 75-52. They'll take on the Warriors tomorrow, and they'll be in action at home this weekend against Purdue Northwest. That a Saturday-Sunday game. You can hear those games right here on ESPN 1400 with David John. But again, they're out playing, and that's a victory in itself these days.
Well, that's just it. They're out playing, and it's one of those things that you can't plan ahead, because they're gonna continue testing, and there's gonna be times you were telling me the women are playing with just 9 players today, because that's gonna be a fluid situation like this has been from football at the high school level all the way through, and you just cross your fingers every game. But hey, at least they're playing, and that gives us a little normalcy. Steve Hennigan and Coach Lockett are probably elated just to be out there.
Dave, we're hoping to hear Coach's Corner coming up soon once the games resume. Are you looking at a time frame as far as possibly getting that back on the air?
Well, my thought on it is if they lift the order and they, as far as or amend it for high school sports to start, then we'll start probably that Saturday. It was January 22nd or whatever that is, and I'll talk to the station and we'll get it going in that area, at least that Saturday or the following Saturday. But we're just waiting like everybody else. When they lift the order, Coach's Corner will come back, and I would have continued doing it like you do, Scott, but that's just primarily a local show. It was getting hard to get guests, to be honest, even on
still
the phone.
is.
Even on the phone. I know you're going through that, but I'm looking at here in a couple weeks, once they lift the order, then either January 22nd, whatever that Saturday is, we'll get going. So hopefully local sports will be going. And then when that happens, then you'll be hearing my dulcet tones for Coach's Corner and hopefully Blue Devil Athletics.
Dave, I would be remiss to not mention, how about those Cleveland Browns? Sorry about the Notre Dame thing, being an Alabama fan, but I
knew that was going to happen.
But how about those Browns last night?
I'll tell you what,
long time coming.
It was a long time. I remember when they beat New England. Bill Belichick was coaching the Browns.
Right.
My senior year in high school.
He's getting the Medal of Freedom this week from President Trump.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in the second hour.
Will he do it at the White House? But I remember that. I remember because I just got back from Cleveland. I was touring a college I was going to go to, ended up going to, and I remember. When the Browns' heydays, when I was at the divisional playoff win over the Jets, the game before the drive, and that was a come from behind when Bernie Kosar found Reggie Langhorne in the back corner of the end zone. But it's a long time coming, 18 years. This is only their second win at Heinz Field, and I was confident that they'd play well. The one worry I had was the guard going out, the 3-time Pro Bowler Joel Bitonio. That was a killer. Hopefully they get him back. But the guys that came in place did a very good job. Mayfield played well, and they jumped on him early, and they just kept on coming. And it was nice to see. It was a long time coming because the Steelers have given the Browns a good thumping over the years. I think, I think they can be interesting to see what your buddy EJ, another Browns fan, has to say. I think they can be competitive at Kansas City. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I think they can give Mahomes and company a run.
Real quick, Dave, Alabama, Ohio State National Championship tonight. Who do you like?
Alabama. I mean, Devontae Smith is
so
good. Him and Najee Harris. I mean, that run Harris did over the defensive back for Notre Dame. Ohio State looked good against Clemson. I just don't think they can do it 2 games in a row. And that offense is just something else for Alabama. The one area they might have a chance is, Bama's defense sometimes is shaky, but they're just too good offensively. I think Alabama wins this one by at least 7.
Well, I hope you're right, sir. That's Dave Watson joining us. Dave, again, thanks for coming in on short notice, but I really wanted to get John to talk about our good friend Johnny Bell and, of course, local sports, and we'll get John here in the near future, sir.
Always a pleasure coming on, and thanks thanks for doing this. It was a very nice gesture by you to, donate some time of your show to talk about Johnny. And thanks for having me on. I don't have a show right now on the air. And when I do come on, I'll do my own tribute for Johnny, but it was nice to come on here because I'm not one to go on Facebook and I'm old school, do it with a microphone, but thanks for doing this. It was great listening to that interview. A job well done. And as always, I'm always fun to come on your show.
Appreciate it, Dave. That's Dave Watson joining us on the game. We come back, we'll talk Detroit sports with Butch Davis from Butch on Sports coming up next on the game here on ESPN 1400.
When it comes to you and your family's health, you want the best care possible. Arfstrom Pharmacy, your locally owned Health Mart pharmacy, is here to help. The caring and knowledgeable staff takes the time to get to know their customers, understand their needs, and help them on a path to better health. From prescription drugs to medical equipment and supplies, they are able to meet your needs. Arfstrom Pharmacy offers a prescription savings club plan. Save on over 300 prescription medications. Some as little as $4 for a 30-day supply, or $10 for a 90-day supply. Club members will also enjoy big savings on other generic brand drugs too. With so many drugs covered by this plan, you could be paying a lot less for your prescription medications in the months ahead. Also, free delivery of prescription drugs within the city limits, and a prescription drug pickup service at the War Memorial Community Care Clinic, Kinchlow. Call us for details at 632-9661. Arfstrom Pharmacy and Arfstrom Medical Equipment and Supplies. A lifetime of service in the Eastern UP at the corner of Ashman and Spruce Street in the heart of downtown Sioux, Michigan. Health Mart, caring for you and about you.
Boss has your back when the weather turns white, in light of day and dark of night. When winter shuts down work and schools, come with resolve and powerful tools. Endure through every push, salt, and stack until your streets are back to black.
Gaylor Thompson Sales and Service, your boss dealer, just off exit 373, Rudyard, Michigan. Let's get back to the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. Let's get back to the game on ESPN 1400.
Welcome back to the game on ESPN 1400. Scott Nason with you. Want to thank our good friend Dave Watson for joining us here on the show, talking about our colleague and good friend John Bell's passing. Coming up at 7 o'clock, we'll have our roundtable. Myself will be joining us. Obviously, I'm behind the mic, as well as a very special guest on the roundtable, which we'll talk about here at 7 o'clock. And joining us right now, co-host of our show, The Game, and host of his own show, Butch On Sports, which you can find on the website Simply Butch2. That's TOO.podomatic.com. You can also find Butch On Sports on our podcast site, thegamesportshow.com and thegamesportshow.podbean.com. Butch Davis joining us on this Monday night. Butch, how you doing, sir?
Well, as blue as the skies are, I'm doing okay there.
Well, that's good, Butch. And, let's talk about some Detroit sports in this segment. And a team right now where the skies aren't very blue is the Detroit Pistons. Pistons, another loss yesterday over the Utah Jazz as the Jazz defeated the Pistons 96-86. The Pistons now 2-8, dead last in the NBA. Butch, I haven't seen a lot of good things with this Pistons team. I think Grant's doing okay, but other than that, things aren't looking very good for the Pistons.
Not very well at all here. What I'm looking at basically is the leadership of the team, which is the head coach, and how he's bringing along this rebuild that was not announced at the beginning of the
We've heard that term a lot, haven't we?
Right. Yeah, we've heard it. Boy, ridiculously tremendous times here in the city of Detroit and beyond the state of Michigan there. It's not good. I guess the good part is that fans don't have to pay, okay, to see, the losing there or put their hard-earned dollars at work because they can't get in the arenas anyway. But again, the Pistons right now, you look at some of the young talent they have, possibility they'll be better. But again, as of this point right now, there's a lot of inconsistencies there. One is the turnover ratio. is very bad, and others is that these kids have not played together. Now, I guess the question remains to me is, what was you doing during your camp and all here, where people are not used to one another here for the 2 weeks you had? And it doesn't look like things are wrapped to a point where you have a contingent group that comes in at certain times during the game and whatnot. There is a lot of mixing and matching, and again, I can't understand what you do during the pre-season before the actual season get around, where these players are not playing a little bit more, showing a lot more cohesion there.
Pistons idle tonight. They will be hosting Milwaukee on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. You can hear that game right here on ESPN 1400. Butch, the Detroit Red Wings will be starting their season Thursday at home against Carolina. They had their red-white scrimmage yesterday. Doesn't matter who won because nobody knows who are on the team. But looking at the Wings going into the start of the regular season, Butch, what are your thoughts as far as where this team's at and what to expect as a Red Wings fan?
Don't have any. I'm in the same boat as we're looking at the Pistons right now.
Right.
Although we look at with Steve Eisenman's second year in the reins there, we're looking at a lot better things, a little bit more cohesion than what we saw last year there. Of course, you now have healthy bodies on the team there. How these bodies are going to be arranged, that is the big question there. Matha is back with the Red Wings and being injured all last year there. You have some certain pieces of young kids coming from Europe. I'm quite sure they'll be on the team, although it has not been announced what the actual rosters are going to be. I'm kind of expecting that to happen on Tuesday afternoon, tomorrow, that will actually get the rosters of the particular teams and the carryovers as well. As you don't know, or all who do know, there are going to be carryovers that the team can actually have above and beyond the actual roster spots there, so you can point and place them due to COVID prosperity of not knowing who has what, when, why, and how there. So it's a hard thing to kind of scramble up here on what's going on, because you only get so much information from the Red Wings at this time there, and we don't get, maybe some, I would say maybe looking at the particular red, white, and blue game, it would be nice if they put it online or something of that nature. But again, I didn't get to see it at all.
Red Wings again in action on Thursday against Carolina. You can hear that game over on our sister station, 1230 WSOO, starting around 7 o'clock. Butch, the Detroit Lions obviously weren't playing this weekend, but the search for a head coach and general manager continue. Quite a few interviews that I've seen. Anything new to report? Do you have any inside sources inside that wonderful Lions organization that's saying this is going to be the guy or girl that we choose?
I don't think the Lions know what they want to do here.
You're right.
I'm truly trying to be nice about that particular situation as well. But the one thing that most of us see, that this should not be what you call a total rebuild there. The Lions have some talent there. The direction of how that talent was going and dealing on the field, that is the question there. And we know that maybe these players, the majority of the players are doing great in the practices, but when it comes down to preparation for the game, it just was not there. They were behind the lines and then some. So, again, that's a squeaky situation. Hopefully the Lions take all the time that they need, and then some, to find the right person that will fit in with the players that they plan on keeping or, receiving via trade or draft or whatever, can gel a bunch of guys together to put up a better performances than what they have done in years past there.
Detroit Tigers, Butch, a pretty quiet week as far as things that I saw. The only thing that I noticed in the news was a lawsuit by a disgruntled Los Angeles Angels staffer naming pitchers, accusing them of doctoring baseballs. One of those pitchers, former Tigers ace Justin Verlander. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but what's up with the Detroit Tigers during this offseason? It's been pretty quiet.
No thoughts on that at all. The disgruntlement is a lot of people that I know with the Tigers who are now hooked up with the Angels. I have not been in contact with those individuals that come even closer who's actually putting in this particular sauce here, on the Detroit Tigers. But again, very quiet. Other than winter baseball is about ready to end. I think the big question is when actual spring training is going to start. Will it start at the traditional places in Florida, which I doubt very seriously? It will probably be in the home bases of a lot of these particular teams. How they will get indoor facilities, because a lot of the teams, or many of the teams, are in winter havens here that I'm quite sure you're not going to feel comfortable practicing in 30-degree weather, although it would be suitable for the Detroit Tigers, because normally the year starts with the temperature 20 degrees or maybe snowing or something there. So it would be quite fitting, because they seem to get a very ridiculously slow start in the season, and it kind of roots them to have an even worse season when the summer comes along there. So, again, very, very quiet information indeed coming from the Detroit Tigers at this time there.
Butch Davis joining us on the game. Butch, let's end this segment with high school sports. We saw a lot of football games over the weekend as the 8-player football is into their finals and the 11-player football is into their semifinals. You also have high school volleyball starting tomorrow as they resume their season. You also have swimming and diving in the Lower Peninsula, and then assuming there's no more extensions on mandates from the state and Department of Health and Human Services, the winter sports season expected to start in a couple of weeks. So here we go again. It's time to talk some high school sports.
Don't get ahead of yourself, little man, my friend here, because there's always something that's going to be a monkey wrench or something there. The big thing right now is Christmas and New Year's and how people fare out of that there. And more optimistic people talk about the shot that will basically kind of help a lot of people, individuals there. That's not being distributed too well in the state of Michigan as per around in the country there. So a lot of testing is going to have to be done in order for these particular sports to rules. And right now there's special rules with the state of Michigan that some of those players are going to be maybe tested at least twice a week in order to keep everything on the up and up, as far as playing basketball. And I'm quite sure the football players are being tested rigorously, that twice a week medium that the state of Michigan has landed up for these particulars there. And also the current expenses that's going to be dealt with a lot of these school systems that don't have nurses or doctors fully on staff to treat or deal with some of the athletes there. So right now football seems to go with no hitch at all. We got another week of semifinals to come along before the finals at Ford Field on the 22nd and the 23rd. Surprise of a lot of teams getting in there, but again, there's no surprise when it comes down to the top tier. I think the biggest surprise I saw was Oak Park's victory that they got in there. I think that's in Division 2, so that was a big surprise. River Rouge got over the hump with King, and that was kind of an exciting game as a field goal ended that particular game there. Something you don't expect in high school to win a game, but a 25-yard field goal was the big key in that particular game at Martin Luther King High School here in Detroit there. So the teams that you think would be there, no one's been cheated. No surprises, I don't think, there. But hopefully they get through the covert halfway decent where there is no hits, runs, or errors, and can continue on this fight of football, high school football in January.
We are all hoping for that indeed, Butch. We're going to take our top of the hour break. When Butch and I come back, we'll have our roundtable and a very special guest joining us on the roundtable. That's coming up next on The Game here on ESPN 1400.
While our dining room is closed, the Wicked Sister is still open for delivery and carryout. You can still order any of our crave-worthy burgers and construction dip, but now you can also order any of our beer, wine, and signature cocktails to go. Call 906-259-1086 or visit our website, wickedsistersue.com, to order. The Wicked's phone number again, 906-259-1086.
MNC Water Systems has a solution for all your water needs. Want clean, fresh drinking water? MNC Water Systems proudly distributes Norway Springs artesian water, bottled right here in the Upper Peninsula. Cooler rental and bottled water delivery for your home and office are available. MNC Water Systems is offering contactless delivery right to your door, as well as curbside pickup. Call Mo at MNC Water Systems today at 906-647-7307, serving the Eastern UP for over 25 years.
O'Connor's Chrysler Dodge Truck and Jeep in Pickford is your full-service dealership, servicing Pickford and the surrounding areas with pride for more than 50 years. O'Connor's top-notch body shop includes a state-of-the-art frame straightener. O'Connor's is also a proud supporter of community events. Its sales team has the experience to know which model is right for each customer. And with financing available to back your purchase, you can drive away today in your dream vehicle. Local people, local pride. Stop in today on M129 at O'Connor. Buffalo Wild Wings wants to help you get through the work week. And Tuesdays and Thursdays might just be the worst days. That's why they've created Wing Tuesdays and Boneless Thursdays with a buy one, get one free offer. Let's crush this week together with Wing Tuesdays and Boneless Thursdays at the Sault Ste. Marie Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's get to the second half of the game here on ESPN 1400, WKNW, Sault Ste. Marie's sports leader. It's the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. Now, here's Scott Nason.
Welcome back to the game on ESPN 1400. Scott Nason with you as we are continuing to be joined by Butch Davis from Butch On Sports for our roundtable. And joining us, a special guest on the roundtable. You know his voice well around here. Host of The Drive on ESPN Blacksburg in Virginia, Paul VanWagoner, joining us on the game. Paul, appreciate you coming on, and how you doing, sir?
I'm well, Scott. Thank you for having me on today. I am going to say I'm a little upset. No intro music for me, no applause. Scotty.
I know. I'm working on it, Paul, and we're going to talk some national sports coming up. But you reached out to me today, wanting to be on because we are paying tribute to our good friend, colleague, and radio legend in this area, John Bell, who passed away this weekend. And earlier on the show, Paul, I had Dave Watson on, who also worked closely with John like you did, and you have lots of memories of John Bell. I know he was very instrumental in your career. And so I wanted to give you the floor and just talk about John Bell, what he meant to radio in this area, and just personal thoughts on him.
Well, first and foremost, it's all John's fault that I'm in this industry. And I can honestly say that I don't know that a day has gone by where in some way, shape, or form I haven't thanked him for that. So it's interesting. I'll take the listeners here just on a quick little tour. Way back in about 2000 and oh gosh, nope, it wasn't 2000. It was like 1998. I was working for a courier service, and I happened to stop by the radio station, and I ran into Brian Davey from the Sioux Morning Crew, and I had kind of just happenstance asked him if they were hiring because I was looking for a little bit of side cash. I was just looking to make a little bit of extra money. And he kind of chuckled and he said, it's interesting that you came in and asked me that because I'm pretty sure John Bell is looking to hire somebody on Talk Radio 1400. And my first thought was, who in the world is John Bell and what in the heck is Talk Radio 1400? And so he said, I'll have John get a hold of you. This was back before cell phones and things of that nature. And so I gave him my home number, and I kind of waited around the house for the next couple of days, and sure enough, the phone rings and I answer it, and I'm greeted with, "Oh, is this Paul VanWagoner?" And that was kind of the beginning of the end, if you will. And I can't tell you how thankful I am that Brian Davey made that introduction, and John Bell kind of opened the door for me. I had no idea I wanted to work in radio. What ended up happening was I ran the board for Dave Watson, actually, and John doing high school sports. And then we picked up a deal with NASCAR, and we were doing NASCAR races. And this was back in the day before automation was really going the way it is now in radio. And I was tasked with running the board for all of these NASCAR races. And it was kind of one of those things that the longer I spent at the radio station, the more I was kind of really digging what I was doing. And, John went to bat for me to get me into the radio station full time. And again, I owe my career to him giving me that opportunity back in the mid to late 90s. He was willing to take a chance on, a mouthy kid out of college that had no idea what he wanted to do with life. So I truly do appreciate him for that, Scott.
Yeah, Paul, John certainly left his stamp in radio around here, and working with him and knowing him like we both did, I didn't get a chance to work with him as much. But the final question I have for you before we get to our roundtable is, if you had one favorite John Bell story that you can say on radio, I'm going to preface that, keeping you under wraps, sir, what would that be?
I'm glad you asked, because I've been thinking about this all day, and it happened at Van Setter's Field. I was after doing the radio thing for a couple of years. I had approached John and said, I want to do play-by-play. I know sports. I think I can do play-by-play. I think I can be, of service. I know Dave is spread pretty thin. You're spread pretty thin. So I want to help out. And, John kind of poo-pooed me when I asked him about that, but I kept pestering him. And eventually what ended up happening was, John and Kevin Pomeroy, did Sioux High football back in the day. And, Kevin had a family engagement one Friday and couldn't do the game. So, of course, John comes to me, and, in the way only John can, he says to me, he goes, "Oh, you're up." and I was like, all right, here we go. I'm in. I can do this. So we're midway through the first half of the Sioux High football game. And Sioux High scores a touchdown. And John turns to me, slaps me in the shoulder, and kind of gives me the thumb, like, get out. And I'm looking at him like, what in the world is going on here? And he pulls his headset off, sets it down, and walks out of the press box. And I couldn't figure out what in the world was going on. I'm looking around, and Sioux High's getting ready we're coming back from commercial. Sioux High's getting ready to kick an extra point, and music plays and the board op counts down, and I just kind of froze, and I was like, well, I'm not sure where John is, but the Blue Devils going to kick a field goal here or an extra point here, and snap is down, kick is up, it's good. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. And I took a commercial break. And again, I still had no clue what was going on. Well, John comes back into the press box, almost perfect timing to the commercial break ending, and doesn't say anything to me, puts his headset back on, gives me the thumbs up, and goes back to doing the game. So halftime rolls around, and I turn to him. I'm like, Johnny, what the hell just happened? And he looks at me in the way only John can, just deadpan, and he says, I had to go to the bathroom. And I just kind of sat there and stared at him. And he goes, I couldn't hold it. I shouldn't have ate the second hamburger. And that, I mean, anybody that knows John, there you go. That's John Bell right there in a nutshell. He just left me in the press box. No idea what I was doing. No idea what was going on. Because he had to go to the bathroom.
And the rest is history as we remember the life and times of Johnny Michael Bell. And I think this is the way that he would have wanted it, Paul, getting, we had Dave on and getting you on and just talking about the memories of his long and storied broadcast career. So I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts on John Bell. Let's get to the roundtable, gentlemen. Paul, since you're our guest, Paul VanWagoner from ESPN Blacksburg, joining us on the game along with Butch Davis and myself. We'll give you the first topic. Butch will give you first crack at Paul's topic. So, Paul, what is on your mind tonight in the world of sports?
Well, gentlemen, I think it's pretty safe to say that the world of sports tonight revolves around the college football championship, a game where I will be actively, and Scott will love me for this, rooting for Alabama.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Not so much because I love Alabama, but we all know how I feel about that school in Columbus.
Butch, Alabama, Ohio State tonight, your thoughts?
I don't have a damn thought in time here, because I hate this thing anyway here. Playoffs? What playoffs?
Playoffs?
You got 4 teams in there, and all these teams participating in Division I playoffs? Come on. I think it stinks really to have it here, but Ohio State I don't like anyway here. Paul, you know how gracious I am with some of the teams in the Big Ten here. We met that way. But
that is true.
I'm going to go for Alabama. It's very hard to go against them. Okay, it's very hard. If Ohio State pulls a steamer out of their game plan, it'll be something different. Am I going to watch the game tonight? No. I'm going to watch wrestling or something here. I'll
go.
Scan back here and there and see it because really and truly, like I said, until the NCAA Division I gets it together on how to do a playoff here, and with so many teams that should be eligible for something like this, and they can get a package together there. If Division II can do it, Division III can do it. If high schools can do it, I'm quite sure the NCAA can do it too. There, I think it's a unjustly thing to a lot of fans in this country that there are not more participants in this particular hoopla, and we see the same old teams every year. It's like I'm not going to say it because, it might insult the whole integrity of the crap anyway. But really and truly, I'm going to go with Alabama.
Butch, I 100% agree with your thoughts on the playoff. The NCAA football, needs to change that and add more teams. I 100% agree with that. Obviously I have a vested interest being an Alabama fan. There's not many of us up here, but it's certainly a good team to root for considering all the other teams I root for stink currently at the moment. But, I look at this game and, this is a title drought for Alabama under Nick Saban. They haven't won in 3 years. Now think about that for a moment. He's been there a while. Mm-hmm. And this Alabama team, defensively, maybe not the strongest they've been, but certainly offensively, this team has looked and is looking very good. I have a hard time seeing Devontae Smith being shut down by Ohio State. I don't think they have the best cornerbacks and backfield that Alabama has seen. And Najee Harris, he's certainly picked up his game running back for Alabama over the second half of the year. I think for Ohio State, they got to be able to run the ball and keep the offense of Alabama off the field. That's the only way they win. I mean, obviously Trey Sermon has done very good as of late, and Ohio State did look good against Clemson. But I think Clemson and Alabama a little different than maybe the past couple years when both those teams I think were pretty equal, or Clemson was better in some cases. I just have a hard time seeing Ohio State winning this game. I don't think it's going to be a complete blowout, but I think Alabama wins comfortably. I'll say by 17 points. Roll Tide. Paul, your thoughts?
I didn't think Ohio State was going to get to this point. Being down here in ACC country, we're inundated with how great Dabo Swinney and Clemson is, and a lot of us buy into that. Ohio State came out there last weekend, or rather, I guess now it would have been almost 2 weekends ago, and really just kind of punched Clemson right in the mouth, and Clemson didn't have an answer for it. I don't think Alabama rolls over quite that easy, guys. I do agree with Butch. I think that they need to expand the playoffs at least to 8 teams. People say, well, you got these kids playing extra games and all this and that and the other thing. But here's the thing. When you break it down, if you expand the playoffs to 8 teams, there's only 2 teams that play an extra game, and they're the 2 teams that play in the championship.
And they won't mind.
Exactly. That's exactly it, Scott. You are 100% right. You know what? One extra game isn't the end of the world. Most of these kids want to play football anyway, so an opportunity to showcase what they can do. And good Lord, maybe we could have actually got Oregon in the playoffs for once, Butch. You know what I'm saying? Like, for crying out loud.
What can you say? Do they deserve to be there? Probably not, but the thought there. Just a thought counts.
Gentlemen, let's take our first break here in hour 2 of the game. We come back. I will throw out a topic coming up next on the roundtable here on the game, ESPN 1400.
Go where the herd goes with the fast, durable Kubota Sidekick, featuring a gas-powered engine that delivers a top speed of 40 miles per hour, best-in-class acceleration and handling with cargo and the strength to haul what needs hauling. All backed by a 2-year, 1,000-hour warranty. Herd cattle, mend fences, and get every job done right with the Kubota Sidekick. Visit your local Kubota dealer today. Go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer. Visit Skinner's of Pickford. Skinner's, your tractor source in the north. Go where the herd goes with the fast, durable Kubota Sidekick, featuring a gas-powered engine that delivers a top speed of 40 miles per hour, best-in-class acceleration and handling with cargo and the strength to haul what needs hauling. All backed by a 2-year, 1,000-hour warranty. Herd cattle, mend fences, and get every job done right with the Kubota Sidekick. Visit your local Kubota dealer today. Go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer. Visit Skinner's of Pickford. Skinner's, your tractor source in the north.
When you're looking to score great pizza, make your play with your favorite hometown team at Guido's. Well known for their pizza, someone once said,
"You can't live on just pizza."
Something they may not agree with at Guido's. You'll also love their pasta, salads, breads, and of course, their Guido-tizers. Make a power play and order online at GuidosPizzaSue.com. And while you're there, look for their college student special coupon and save 15% on one regularly priced menu item. Guido's Pizza, 2673 Ashman. Call 906-635-0066.
When you shop locally, you're helping the local economy. It's the same when you're a member of the credit union. We reinvest your money right here in town, so your investment becomes your neighbor's loan. You could say that around here, we know the neighborhood. Sioux Co-op Credit Union, your credit union, federally insured by NCUA. Visit us online at SiouxCoop.com.
Everybody knows that H&R Block is the premier tax preparation group in the nation. But did you know that H&R Block offers year-round bookkeeping and business services that will help your small business cut costs, make profits, and streamline the business end of operations? From payroll and bookkeeping to expert tax prep and advice. See the friendly folks at H&R Block on I-75 Business Spur in the Michigan Sioux. Call 635-5970. Put H&R Block to work on your small business. You'll be glad you did. H&R Block wishes the Hockey Lakers success. You can catch podcasts of the game at thegamesportshow.com. Now let's get back to it with Scott Nason here on ESPN 1400.
7:18 on the game, ESPN 1400. Scott Nason with you. We're continuing to be joined by special guest from ESPN Blacksburg, Paul VanWagoner, along with Butch Davis. And gentlemen, it's my turn to throw out a topic to the round table. Butch, I'm going to go to you first. It was a wild card weekend over the past couple days as we saw 6 NFL playoff games on various networks and platforms. And so, Butch, just your overall thoughts on the games, the presentation, and just some of the things you took out of this weekend in the NFL.
Oh boy, it wasn't too many surprises. The Los Angeles Seattle game, that was a nick and tuck game, but I didn't expect Los Angeles with the offense to win. But needless to say, their quarterback came off the bench and took care of business in that particular one there. Buffalo looked very, very stunning in their victory there. The Ravens, Baltimore, they did the same. They looked very well. Cleveland.
EJ's still drunk.
That was a joke here, really 28-0 after the first quarter was, you kind of knew where that game was headed to there, and all the hoopla after the game again. It was pretty doggone good. What really got to me was the broadcasters on Freeform as well as Nickelodeon.
Loved it.
I think Nickelodeon and Freeform did football justice there because they played with the notion that this is a learning experience, and where Freeform more or less kind of catered to the teenagers and the younger adults in their broadcast and how they did it. Nickelodeon went back to the old well and did it the way kids would learn from it there, and they did. I think of all the broadcasters out there, Nickelodeon did the best job in town. Their broadcasting was superior. Their graphics was great. Their education on the game for kids or adults who didn't know what was going on was absolutely superior there. And my hats off go to Nickelodeon and how they did that football game.
Yeah, I thought they did an awesome job, and just to see the green slime in the end zone when they scored, I thought was a nice touch, and the SpongeBob and everything else. Paul, we talk about it on your show, The Drive, on Thursdays about NFL football, and 4-2 in my predictions this weekend. Just your overall thoughts as far as what you saw in these 6 games.
Nothing really surprised me in these games, other than, Butch touched on it a little bit here, other than the fact that Seattle didn't really show up. On Friday, I had made the kind of bold prediction, and I got ridiculed for it, that the Browns would win against Pittsburgh. I don't know what happened there, but when the football team from Washington played Pittsburgh, they broke Pittsburgh. I'm not sure how or why, but Pittsburgh was not the same since then. And so, the Browns winning, it gives me hope as a Lions fan that maybe possibly in the next, 2 decades, maybe possibly the Lions can win a playoff game spot. We've seen 1 in our lifetime. So, 2 would be, just wonderful. I thought, Tom Brady did what Tom Brady does. He went out there and just proved even more that he is the greatest quarterback of all time. As far as the games were concerned, I loved the fact that for the most part, they were all competitive. I mean, Buffalo and Indy was a field goal game. Even Seattle, LA was only a 10-point contest. Washington kept it close. Baltimore, Tennessee, a close game. Now, Chicago had no business being in the playoffs, in my opinion. So the fact that New Orleans kind of routed them was fine. But even that Pittsburgh-Cleveland game, Butch touched on the fact that it was 28-0 at the beginning. Pittsburgh kept fighting in that game. I mean, they only lost by 11 points and I know that some people will say, well, 11 points is a pretty big number, but, when you're down by 28, 11's not that bad. So, all of the games were competitive. I'm very much looking forward to the next round, the divisional round, coming up this weekend. I think that that's going to have some really good games in it also. But, all in all, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did as well, Paul. And I like what Butch said about the Nickelodeon broadcast. I watched most of the broadcast on there and thought it was just a great thing to do. And I think more leagues may be taking note of that and possibly doing it. And certainly I think it would be well worth it for those leagues to do because, hey, you're always looking for new eyes to come to your product. And certainly that didn't hurt support their cause. And so looking at the division round matchups coming up on Saturday at 4:30 at Lambeau Field, it'll be the Green Bay Packers taking on the Los Angeles Rams. I guess that one was kind of my coin flip game, the Rams and Seahawks. With Jared Goff's status, we weren't sure, and then he didn't start, and then Wofford gets hurt, and Goff came in. But it's that defense, I think, that's really doing it for the Rams. Rams have some injuries. We saw Cooper Kupp get injured. Aaron Donald got banged up, and so certainly you would expect Green Bay to be the favorite in that one, but maybe they're a little rusty after not playing in a couple weeks. But I think the Packers wouldn't be too upset to see that's the team that they're playing this weekend. The other game on Saturday in the AFC, Buffalo against Baltimore. You both touched on Buffalo, Josh Allen. I mean, this is a guy last year that struggled, and you look at what that team has done. Is it too soon for the Bills? Are they ready to make that next jump? This is going to be a tough matchup, I think, for them. Baltimore certainly got the playoff monkey off of Lamar Jackson's back in that win. They were able to shut down Derrick Henry. They're not going to have to worry as much, I think, this weekend against the rush for Buffalo. That's not a big part of their game, but Josh Allen can run. And so I think that one's going to be very competitive. And Lamar Jackson, he's always that X factor when he busts one of those big runs like we saw at Tennessee. And then the Sunday games, Cleveland at Kansas City. E.J. Russell, who normally is on the slot, he texted me this morning. He's like, I can't do it. I got Ohio State tonight. The Browns just won. I said, hey, no problem. So he's doing about a 48-hour binge, I think, probably, with a few cocktails. But the Cleveland Browns will be at Kansas City. Obviously, Cleveland, you talk about getting a playoff monkey off your back. They did that. Certainly, Pittsburgh helped them out. But, this Cleveland team, can they hang with Kansas City? Absolutely. I mean, this is a team, and you look at Baker Mayfield and his development this year, but with Kansas City, they got to run the ball, and they got to not have Mayfield make that mistake. They're certainly going up against the prohibitive favorite in the AFC and the Kansas City Chiefs. And then the final game on Sunday will be Tampa Bay at the New Orleans Saints. I don't think anybody was surprised that the Buccaneers won that game at Washington. I don't think anybody was surprised that the Saints won at home against Chicago. You got Brady against Breeze. Again, this round 3 of this matchup, certainly going to be a very interesting game. I really don't know where this one goes. Tampa Bay, I still don't think has played to their full potential unless they play a team like the Detroit Lions. So, gentlemen, certainly some interesting games coming up this weekend. And I will say that the divisional round of the playoffs this upcoming weekend is one of my favorite weekends in all of sports. It kind of goes along with March Madness for me. This is where you have 8 teams, 4 games, and this is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, these are the 4 games, Scott. There's no bad games, right? You don't have you mentioned the Lions. You don't have the Lions playing the Vikings this weekend that you have to worry about. These teams all deserve to be here and have all earned this spot. Now, I do have something here for you, Scott, and I know you got a lot of Green Bay Packer fans out there in Sault Ste. Marie. Let me throw this out to the Packer fans. As you all know, Aaron Rodgers led the NFL in touchdown passes this year with 48. Scott, do you know the last quarterback to lead the NFL in touchdown passes that won a Super Bowl?
Oof, that's a good question. Butch, any thoughts?
Not a one. I'm still thinking about bringing back Peter Park.
I'll just take a wild stab and say Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning in 2013 had 55 touchdown passes. He did not win the Super Bowl, Scott. The last one, 1999, Kurt Warner.
Oh, wow.
With 41. So here's the deal, Packer fans. It's going to run through Aaron Rodgers, but historically, Peyton Manning, Pat Mahomes, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning again, Dan Marino back in 84, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, these guys, even Matt Stafford in 2011 none of these guys won a Super Bowl the year they led the league in passing touchdowns.
Good stuff, Paul and Butch. We're going to take a break here on the game. We come back. Butch Davis is going to throw out his topic on the roundtable, all coming up on the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show, The Game, ESPN 1400.
Is it time to install new windows, doors, or paneling? Perhaps you're finally going to build that new deck or addition you've been talking about, or repair the roof. Stop at Sue Builder Supply. You'll find helpful advice and quality materials that will make every job easier. Whether you're ready to paint, insulate, install new windows, or kitchen cabinets, the team at Sue Builder Supply will make the task less daunting by coaching you with great how-to tips. When there's a building or remodeling project in store, make your first stop Sue Builder Supply. You'll receive the best building materials and hardware and great project advice every time. Sue Builder Supply, helping you make your building and remodeling projects a reality. On Johnston by the Bridge in Sioux, Michigan.
Quick as a wink, Christmas is over, and the after Christmas sale is on at Das Gift House. Save 50% off most Christmas decorations, night lights, snow globes, silver angels, solar garden items, Lions football, selected Wonder Woman and Batman travel mugs, and winter scarves. Save 25% off Jim Shore snowmen and angels, and save 25% off all Minnetonka moccasins, slippers, and leather wallets and purses. Like sales? Get the Das Gift House Shopper Rewards card and save all year. Assorted religious items and First Communion gifts are 25 to 50% off. The After Christmas Sale, now in progress at Das Gift House. Open 9:30 a.m. until 6:01 p.m. 7 days a week. Closed New Year's Day. Das Gift House in the Sioux, at the corner of West Portage Avenue and Osborne Boulevard, across from the Sioux Locks. Visit our sister store, Shirts and Things, right next door for great sales as well. Visit Das Gift House online and follow on Facebook.
Let's get back to the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. Let's get back to the game on ESPN 1400.
Welcome back to the game on ESPN 1400. Scott Nason with you. We're continuing to be joined by Butch Davis and special guest Paul VanWagoner for our roundtable. Now, if you want to hear the full 2-hour show of the game, all you have to do is go to the website, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. We'll be putting out tonight's episode around 8:30, including our tribute to our good friend and colleague, the late Johnny Michael Bell. Butch Davis, it is time for your turn on the round table to throw out a topic. Paul, I'll give you first crack at Butch's topic. So, Butch Davis, what's on your mind tonight in the world of sports, sir?
Whoa, boy. With Monday night, not too much going on here. I'm reading a lot of stuff in there and it's not doing me a bit of good. The NBA, are you surprised of the covert events as has happened? They did everything before the last season in a bubble, and now they're not in a bubble, and they seem to be catching it here. Philadelphia with 9 players, and they're also getting fined by not having Simmons on that particular list. Harden, and he going through his thing here, and the nightclubs and the strip joints here. What do you guys think here?
Paul, will go to you first.
Well, I think that the biggest thing is you got to stay out of the strip clubs, right? I mean, that's the secret right there. It's apparently that's where COVID comes from. I thought it came from China originally, but apparently it comes from the strip clubs. Here's the thing. The issue that you run into with this is that there's really no getting away from it, right? And if you put the players in a bubble like they did for the playoffs back in the summer, you can avoid it. But when you leave these guys out to kind of do their own thing, they're going to make mistakes. And it's not that they're doing it in an egregious way or anything like that. It's just, you're talking about 25-year-old millionaires. Like the last thing they want to do, I'm 45 years old, man. The only thing I want to do is put on a pair of basketball shorts and, watch wrestling tonight. Like, these guys want to go out. They want to go to the club. They want to hang out with their friends. They, they 99.8% survival rate. So they aren't too scared about it. But, there are ramifications for every decision that they make. And, some of those ramifications are that now you don't get to play. I mean, we saw it in the NFL. Kevin Stefanski, the coach for the Browns, had to sit and watch the game in his basement last night with the Browns playing against the Steelers because he got COVID-19. I'm sure he wasn't out at the strip club. It happens. Like, I mean, you go into the grocery store and you run into somebody and you end up with COVID. So it's going to be an issue all season long. The problem I think that you run into more so with the NBA is just that you're talking about a 15-person team, right? So like in the NFL, if, 2 defensive backs get COVID, you just grab 2 guys off the practice squad and you're good. You roll. In the NBA, I mean, let's take the Lakers, for example. If LeBron James and Anthony Davis both get COVID, that drastically changes what that team looks like, right? Like, I mean, and the NBA is such a star-driven league that it's tough. They're going to have to be flexible with this. That's the biggest thing. You can't. They want to be tough on these guys, but I think, you almost kind of have to just say, all right, well, we'll reschedule these games, or maybe we just won't play them and we'll do what Major League Baseball did and say, team with the best winning percentage plays on.
Yeah, Paul, I agree. This is just the reality of the world that we're living in right now. You look at the NBA, they had a game on Saturday postponed, Miami and Boston. Last night, New Orleans and Dallas. You also have a couple games already postponed this week. Chicago's game has been postponed, but you've seen it at pretty much at all levels in every sport. It's the reality of the world we live in. And, there's been a lot of things in the news this week, but what's kind of taken the back pages, if you will, is that we're still seeing a lot of cases and way too many deaths. A couple times last week, there were 4,000 people in this country that died because of COVID-19. And it's a reality of life right now. And unfortunately, these leagues and organizations are going to have to navigate through this pandemic. The NHL starts this week. I know, they're talking about losses in the billions as far as revenue with not having fans and playing less games. And so unfortunately, it's a sad reality of where we are right now. The good news is, the vaccine is out. The bad news is it's hard to get distributed right now to the people that need it. So I think we're going to see this for a while, guys, as far as these professional leagues having to, cancel games and quarantine people. Obviously you shouldn't be going to a strip club during a pandemic, but, there are people that are. I know that, unfortunately, there are many that still don't wear masks when they should, in my opinion. And it's just, we're in a pandemic. This is a very contagious disease. And while most people survive, we've lost over 375,000 people in this country in less than a year. Think about that for a moment. That is a sad commentary. And so in order to play sports, we're going to need to do more testing. People are going to have to be a little more cautious, or a lot more cautious in some sakes. So Butch, great question. What are your thoughts?
Well, I got some powerful messages there. Breaking news here: WWE champion Drew McIntyre has tested positive for coronavirus there.
Yep.
And you Raw fans, you ain't gonna see him for a while.
Nope.
No Randy Orton match tonight here. So I just want to get that out of the way here. Being that I'm in my shorts right now.
Rub it in, Butch. Rub it in.
I had to gotta have a stretch here somewhere down the line in the show. It is hard for me to gauge on this there that that you got so many rich young men and women who are involved with the National Basketball Association. and the lack of maturity that they have, or privacy that is breached because of what they do and how they do it. You figure when you have a lot of money, life will be easier, but again, when you have a lot of money, a lot of little pleasures are going down the wayside here. So basically right now, it's bad. I looked at the Philadelphia situation where, again, they got fined because they didn't add a player to that covert list that should have been on there, and that was Simmons of their particular team there. And then, of course, the New Orleans game, and I forget the other team that's involved in it there, I think Dallas. You guys remind me of that tonight. That particular thing happened. If I click my little switch here, and I'll see it.
Yeah, New Orleans and Dallas, Butch. Yep.
Okay, very good. Shoot, they're not happening, and we're going to see a lot more. National Hockey League hasn't even got started yet here, and I'm expecting things to happen there, all because of they're not using a bubble there. Was the bubble a very good advantage? Yes, it was, because you violated that bubble. It didn't actually cost the team, but it costed you as well there, you know. But and it was controlled. So it is very difficult for me to gauge this throughout the season there, but I think there's a lot more is going to happen. From my knowledge, the athletes are going to probably be the last of the people who get a shot for coronavirus or protection there. As right now we're looking at teachers and in many countries, except for Florida, you can get a lunch here and stand in line for 4 to 5 days before you reach the point where you get a shot there, you know, and it's not being done in many states, but it's done there. It's just bad here. So I guess it's got to be a lot more education involved with the National Basketball Association on how the players have to conduct themselves. And it's got to be a lot more monitoring with the particular teams in general, how they run them and what they have been doing in order to make sure that the players' best interest is in the team that's paying them. You know, you don't know what to say, but it was very curious to get the answers from you guys on and what you thought of the particular situation there. Just, I guess, stay out of the strip clubs. I don't know what to say.
That's the motto of the night. Stay out of the strip clubs. We continue on the roundtable with Butch Davis and Paul VanWagoner. And Paul, I'm going to go to you next for this topic. It involves the University of Michigan. This is kind of a two-pronged topic. First of all, the football team and the athletic department has reached an extension for their fantastic, in my opinion, head coach Jim Harbaugh through the year 2025. I want your thoughts on that. And secondly, I think probably the most nobody's talking about this Michigan basketball team, ranked number 5 and 7 this week, undefeated. Juwan Howard is doing, in my opinion, an amazing job with that program, and that's not sarcastic, that statement. The first one was just your thoughts on those two questions, and we'll go to Butch.
All right, so here's the deal. Okay, so I'm going to give you the quick and dirty on Jim Harbaugh. There are 128 Division I college football teams in the nation. 115 of them would love to have a coach that has the record that Jim Harbaugh does. He can't beat Ohio State, but nobody can beat Ohio State. Hell, Clemson couldn't beat Ohio State. What I'll say is simply this. He wins 8, 9, 10 games a year. He puts the team in New Year's 6 bowl games. Revenue continues to stream into the university because of the football program. I think where he needs to concentrate his approach is he needs to beat Penn State, he needs to beat Wisconsin, and he needs to beat East Lansing Community College on a regular basis. And until he does that, that's the issue that I have. Again, ain't nobody beating Ohio State. Hell, Alabama might struggle with them tonight. And as far as Juwan Howard is going, Scott, you talk about a guy that's ahead of schedule, man. Here's the thing. All of you Michigan basketball haters out there, Juwan Howard has the number 1 recruiting class in 2021 coming into Michigan. So they're good right now. They're going to get better. So buckle up, because if you don't like Michigan basketball, I feel bad for you, because you're going to be hearing and seeing a lot about Michigan basketball in the near future. The beauty of Juwan Howard, Scott, is he has the name recognition. He has the pedigree of being an NBA player for many years, and he's got the Fab Five behind him. I know that you and critics like yourself will say, well, the Fab Five never existed. They did. Just the NCAA sucks. But at the end of the day, man, shout out to Juwan Howard for what he's doing at Michigan right now. What a great choice for coach.
Yeah, I said it at the time. That was a fantastic choice for that program. Butch Davis, your thoughts on the Harbaugh extension and Michigan basketball undefeated?
For Michigan, it's a good thing here because, again, they have a name brand coach that's not leaving, for the pro ranks there, as was somewhat predicted there. I didn't see it, but, others did. He's a very successful coach. He's very mindful of it. I think the Harbaugh's biggest problem right now, in my opinion, is that he needs to make some adjustments with his coaching staff there. I don't think they're all on the same page when it comes down. At least this year, they were not when it came down to dealing with the teams that they have to play there. This guy's religiously what he needs to do because he's in this one particular division. So you need to concentrate on that before you even look at Ohio State. But again, Michigan didn't have that this year. Maybe it's because of the climate of what was going on that things just got so wacky, and it has been wacky up at the University of Michigan as far as not only the students per se, but the student athletes in general there. But I think that's a good coach to keep him there. As far as Juwan Howard is concerned, my buddy, my pal, and close. I'm always close to them because players like Jalen Rose and some Southwestern prospectors who was on that Michigan team. Really, I have a very good, liking with him there. Just things real. Juwan, I like him because he's a real individual. He's a no-nonsense guy if you know him, okay? If you're a bully, you hate his guts, okay? Because he's not going to take but 2 seconds of your crap before he throw you out in the street or throw you out of the strip club. I don't know. No, you can't. He's not going to have it. You're not going to ruin his evening. And that's the kind of person he is. But if you conduct yourself willing to learn, willing to make adjustments, willing to make sacrifices, Juwan Howard is one of the best people you ever want to meet. He will help you if it takes all night to get it done there. He is not a person who is lost with patience. He has a lot of that in general there. So, and again, it's a shame. Of course, Pittsburgh Steelers won 11 in a row, and guess what happened to them? And I think a lot of people are expecting that to happen to Michigan, which, in this case, I hope it doesn't happen to Michigan there. I hope Michigan continues to do what they're doing is put fear in these other teams in the Big Ten, where eventually when this particular bubble they go into for the championship ratifications, they're in there like it's nothing happening there, and they win the whole doggone thing like that Michigan team did in '89. No one thought they would do anything either, but Terry Mills and them, saw better. So to me, it's a good thing. Sometimes silence is golden. And in this case, Michigan don't have that pressure on them to have to do this and that every single week because they have to worry about who's looking at them. No one's paying attention to them anyway, and they're still doing the rear end kicking that they're doing right now. So hip hooray for Michigan on that accord there. They got a double down situation. Hopefully they get their football situation straightened out because they got some coaches right now that don't need to be there.
Yeah, you guys both hit on points on Juwan Howard that I was going to make. Paul, you said it best. This he's way ahead of schedule. This team future looks very bright. And Butch, knowing Juwan Howard, not knowing him like I do, he just seems like a good guy. He was always my favorite of the Fab Five, all jokes aside, Paul, involving banners and such. I always thought he's a good guy. He's a good guy to have ahead of the program. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and I think Michigan basketball this year and in the future looks very good. As far as Jim Harbaugh, obviously as a Michigan State fan, beating him 3 times in his 6 years, it certainly gives me hope for the future. But he still does have an overall good record, but he's got to find a way to beat Ohio State and start putting some banners up at Michigan State. Do they even have banners at Michigan Stadium? I don't think so. They haven't won since Harbaugh's been there. We're going to take a break here on the game. We come back, we'll have time for one more topic, and then we'll get to our thumbs up and thumbs down for the week, all coming up on the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show, The Game, ESPN 1400.
Fernelius Hyundai, proving why they are the ones to trust for your next vehicle, bringing home 3 Best of the EUP awards, winning the Best Service Department, Best Used Cars, and Best Salesperson with Sally Van Leuven. If you are thinking of getting a new or used vehicle, stop up and see the trusted staff of Fernelius Hyundai today at 2988 Ashman Street, where all social distancing and safety precautions are being observed. Or shop from the safety of your home by going to their website, and in 4 easy steps, you can purchase your next vehicle from Fernelius Hyundai. Just go to FerneliusHyundai.com. That's FerneliusHyundai.com. Fernelius Hyundai, earning the trust of the EUP, one sale at a time.
If you're looking for friendly, competent, caring insurance service for your home, auto, business, or farm in the Eastern Upper Peninsula, see the folks at Don Wilson Insurance at 110 Dawson Street in the Sioux today. Don Wilson Insurance has worked with Fremont Insurance of Michigan for the past 20 years, and Fremont's been providing the finest coverage in the state of Michigan since 1876. For competitive rates on all your insurables, see the friendly staff at Don Wilson Insurance and Fremont, serving the EUP since 1999. Don Wilson Insurance and Fremont, big fans of Lake Superior State University and the Lakers.
You can catch podcasts of The Game at thegamesportshow.com. Now let's get back to it with Scott Nason here on ESPN 1400.
7:50 on the Game, ESPN 1400. Scott Nason with you. We're continuing to be joined by co-host Butch Davis from Butch On Sports and special guest Paul VanWagoner from ESPN Blacksburg. Gentlemen, we got about a little less than 10 minutes to go on the show. Paul, we'll go to you first for the final topic, and then we'll get our thumbs up and thumbs down for the week. So, Paul, the floor is yours.
Well, Scott, I will say this, that I am, as a Lions fan, extremely confused. Maybe this is a good thing. I don't know. But the Lions seem to be interviewing everyone that at one time or another wore a tie in the NFL for their general manager position. In the past, they've always kind of had their eye on the person that they wanted, and they've kind of jumped at it. It seems like now they're doing their due diligence. In fact, today they interviewed the Colts assistant GM, Ed Dodds, for the general manager position in Detroit. I don't know how any of this is going. Maybe Butch has some inside information. They interviewed the Saints VP, Jeff Ireland, the other day. Hopefully this works out for the Lions, but they got to find some stability in that front office.
Butch, the floor is yours. I know you got a lot to say about this one.
Yeah, and Paul, you know me very well here. I like loyalty here. I don't care where you come from. Let's be loyal and whatnot there. And one of the days I mentioned in considering what the Detroit Lions is, they got to find someone in Detroit or who has been affiliated with the Lions before to be a general manager. Going outside the bend will never get it done. They did it with Matt Millen. He ruined a very good thing. We had Moeller here, Gary Moeller, who missed the playoffs after Ross went to the nut house, in Oregon, that just ruined the team, just blew it away here. Then you had the other, we've had general managers who have not had affiliations with the Detroit Lions. There's Dexter Bussey. There's Tom Korkowski is another one who's been with the Lions. Chris Spielman would be an excellent choice for a general manager, although he don't want it. So it brings Rick Spielman into play. And why haven't you tickle his finger there and get in the general manager situation, who is somewhat associated with the Lions? The Lions got just too many players or personnel. Herman Moore is another one. There's another example who is very close with the Detroit Lions. Lomas Brown is another one there. It's not always necessary that you got to be a great executive, as per the Cleveland tight end who went in and been a general manager, who went to Baltimore and been a general manager, who has been outstanding here. He had no experience as an executive, but again, he had his experience where he knew players. And right now, we got to get someone, number one, who loves Detroit, who understands the prosperous of the Detroit Lions, who understand the culture, and knowing that there's people who's been on this earth for 65 years. I've been on it, close to that basically has never seen a championship. I've never seen a Super Bowl. And it's got to sting. I mean, Ford may be good for selling cars, but they sure haven't done a very good job when it comes down to dealing with a football team.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree, Butch. And like you said, somebody local, I think, certainly would be a good idea for a franchise that they just lack an identity. They lack just having that franchise. You look at the drafts and the draft picks that they've had, and then you see a team like Pittsburgh where they get these guys that are, they get these running or wide receivers in the second and third round, and we're picking tight ends and cornerbacks in the first round. It just, they need some identity. They need just a way to get that franchise rolling, because, I always say my sports show would be a lot less entertaining if the Lions were good. Well, guess what? I hope it comes to that point where the Lions actually are good, because they are one of the worst franchises in all of sports. I would argue that they are the worst franchise in all of sports, with the way not only that the organization is run, but just the difficult landmines that they put out for individuals like Butch and myself that are trying to, cover the team and get more access. So, Paul, I guess in a nutshell, I just hope that they get somebody and they come in there and they give the Lions an identity, because they certainly have an identity right now, and that's a bunch of losers.
Indeed. Yeah, I agree.
Gentlemen, let's get to our thumbs up and thumbs down for the week before we get to you two and talk about your shows and what's coming up. So we'll go to you, Paul. Paul VanWagoner from ESPN Blacksburg, your thumbs up and thumbs down for the week.
Okay, so my thumbs up is going to be to the NFL for a great weekend of football. I was a little skeptical when they expanded the playoffs to 7 teams in each conference. I can officially say that I've changed on that. I am all about it. So thumbs up to the NFL for putting on just a great program. My thumbs down, and this one is going to be a little bit weird. My thumbs down is to the transfer portal. For those that follow college football, you know that the transfer portal, basically, if I show up at school and I don't like what's going on, there's no loyalty. I'm just going to go ahead and jump into the transfer portal, and I'm out of here as quick as I came in. The lack of loyalty in the game of college football is frustrating to me, especially as a fan of college football. I have no idea who the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers are going to be from year to year, and that wasn't the case back in the day, and I miss it. So thumbs down to the transfer portal, even though a couple of players that I really like have come out of the transfer portal for my teams.
Well said, sir. Butch Davis, your thumbs up and thumbs down for the week.
Oh, boy, thumbs down goes to it's right now. It's not having any words on what the National Hockey League is going to actually really do. We know the dates they're supposed to start. We know what time is going to start there, but the rosters and everything, getting those all out there, it's been really, really slow. And I kind of expected things to be hopping today or maybe late Sunday evening there, but it hasn't happened. So we'll look at Tuesday as the date that the rosters will come out there. It's kind of slow to get yourself together. And then also get a hold of the clubs, basically, how are we going to cover these particular players, because that's been very inconsistent. My thumbs up is going to go to Nickelodeon, how they did that football game yesterday there. That was most refreshing. And if the National Football League has any brains at all, they would do something like that more often there. The knowledge that they gave that football game yesterday for people who don't know, want to deal with football 101 or football 001, hey, they were top billing. They did it with style. They did it with class. They did it for everybody from a child to an old man who didn't know anything about it. They caught your interest in some of the things they did. It was wonderfully done there. And then the National Football League needs to be a lot more innovative when it comes down to things like that.
Yeah, Butch, for time's sake, I'll just do a thumbs up. It's exactly to Nickelodeon and their broadcast. Here's a couple quotes from Nate Burleson, who was one of the announcers, talking about Drew Brees' style. He said he's the kid at recess who never misses at dodgeball. I thought that one was good. When there is a flag, Burleson said when a flag is on the ground, somebody messed up. And talking about a trick play, the trick play is the closest the NFL has to a prank. I thought that was pretty good. And thumbs up to our late colleague, Johnny Michael Bell, passing away over the weekend. We miss you, and certainly our thoughts and prayers are with you and your entire family. Real quick, Paul, 30 seconds. Where can listeners hear more of you and your show, The Drive?
ESPN Blacksburg.com. We have an app. Go to your app store, your Google Play Store, search for ESPN Blacksburg. We're very easy to find, 4 to 6, Monday through Friday.
And
check it out.
Yeah, Butch, you got a show coming up on Wednesday on Butch On Sports, which you can find on our website. Real quick, what's up for that show?
Who knows? We'll probably deal with the actual high school stuff there that's going to be taking place this week, which is a lot there. The semifinals in football, along with swimming and diving, and a whole lot of other stuff there. And we'll get a better wage on the National Hockey League, which will start their league on Wednesday.
Butch and Paul, really appreciate you both being on the show, and certainly look forward to talking to you more in the future and next week on The Game. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for tonight's show. For all our guests, including Paul VanWagoner and Butch Davis, along with David Watson, my name is Scott Nason. We will talk to you next Monday night for our next edition of The Game here on ESPN 1400. Roll Tide, roll.
Thanks for listening to The Game here on ESPN 1400 WKNW, Sault Ste. Marie's sports leader. Check us out next Monday at 6 for the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show. You can hear the podcast of the show and other broadcasts at thegamesportshow.com.